December 22nd. I remember the cold. Not just outside, but inside. The kind of cold that settles in your chest when you realize someone you loved once, deeply, blindly, just torched the last bridge back to decency. She left a voicemail. Not a conversation. Not a face-to-face. Not even a coward's text. A voicemail. Christmas is canceled. Wait for a call from my lawyer. No hello. No reason. Just a decree. Like I was some peasant in her little kingdom, and she was the ice queen doling out punishment because I didn't dance right at her winter gala. I didn't yell. Didn't call her back. Didn't beg. God, no. I just sent a message back. 8 letters. 1 period. Got it. Then I did what any man with a shred of dignity and an understanding of leverage would do. I made a call. Not to her. To my bank. You see, what she never bothered to learn, what she thought was beneath her perfect little world of red wine and social media photo ops, was the fine print. The details. The infrastructure. I built that house. Not just with lumber and labor, but with signatures, escrow accounts, and clauses she never read. The mortgage? $500,000. She'd begged to get her name on it. Said it would make her feel secure. So I let her. I gave her that. I let her feel like she was part of something. But what she forgot, what she never knew, was that I was the primary borrower. She was the co-signer. And more importantly, the property was held in a revocable living trust. My trust. Established 2 years before we ever tied the knot. So when she declared war with that one voicemail, I didn't fire back. I erased myself. The next 24 hours were quiet, eerily so. I stayed off social media. Left her unread. Didn't touch the thermostat. Just sipped my black coffee and watched the snowfall blanket the driveway she was going to shovel alone. At exactly 9:32 a.m. the next morning, my phone began vibrating like a dying bee in a bottle. 1 missed call. Then 5. Then 11. By noon? 90. Most were from her. A few were from numbers I didn't recognize. But the voicemails? Oh, those were gold. Her lawyer's voice, frantic, rattled. Mr. Callahan. Hi. We've been informed that the mortgage has been altered. I'd like to clarify, what you've done exactly, and if we could discuss it before this escalates any further. They sounded like someone who just realized their client had picked a fight on thin ice with a man holding a flamethrower. See, when I removed my name from the mortgage via a trust restructuring they hadn't read carefully, it triggered a clause in the loan terms. A big one. Because now, she was solely responsible for $500,000 of debt. And me? I wasn't even legally tied to the house anymore. I'd moved out on paper while sitting in my living room, and she was just starting to figure that out. By 3 p.m., I finally picked up. Not because I had anything to say, just to listen. Ryan, what the hell did you do? Her voice came through like a bullet, shaky, shrill, already on the verge of crying. You told me Christmas was canceled, I said, calm as a winter lake. I assumed that extended to joint responsibilities. She stammered. That's not. I didn't mean. You can't just pull out of the mortgage. I didn't pull out, I said, sipping my coffee. I removed myself from a trust that owned an asset. The bank was informed. They responded accordingly. Silence. She didn't understand. Not really. Because for years, she thought I was the fool with the toolbox. The guy who fixed the dishwasher. Who paid the bills. Who showed up to parent-teacher conferences with coffee-stained hands and a calm smile while she networked in yoga pants with the rich wives. But I wasn't just a handyman with a good heart. I was a patient man with a long memory. And the kind of man who keeps records, especially when things start to smell off. It had started months ago. Subtle changes. She used to hum in the mornings. That stopped. She started staying out later. Dressed a little different. More makeup. Less explanation. Her phone? Always on Do Not Disturb. And always face down. But it was that November dinner party when everything clicked. Some guy named Travis, a junior partner at her firm, laughed a little too loud at her jokes. His hand lingered on her lower back like he'd done it 100 times. I didn't react. Not then. But I started documenting. And by December, I had everything I needed. Back on the call, she was still scrambling. I didn't know it would affect the house. You didn't think, I cut in. You played checkers on a chessboard. You made a threat thinking I'd sit still. But where will I live? She blurted. That's the million-dollar question, I said. Or in this case, the $500,000 one. Ryan, be reasonable. I almost laughed. Reasonable? This from the woman who left a voicemail nuking our entire marriage like she was canceling a brunch reservation? You told me to wait for a call from your lawyer, I said. I did. Now you can wait for mine. Click. That night, I didn't sleep. Not out of anxiety, but clarity. For the first time in months, maybe years, my mind was still. I wasn't trying to fix something broken. I was preparing to bury it. I dug into every file cabinet, every digital folder. The prenup? Still intact. But she'd forgotten one thing. Every upgrade to that house? Every renovation? I'd paid for it after we signed. Meaning when it came time to divide assets, that house wasn't just hers to cry over. It was a time bomb with her name on it. My lawyer would love this case. The next morning, her lawyer emailed me personally. No assistant, no delay. Subject line: urgent clarification requested. He wanted to avoid unnecessary litigation. I wanted my life back. And the poetic part? I was giving her what she asked for. Christmas was canceled. Just not the way she imagined. By Christmas Eve, I'd blocked her number. Not forever, just long enough to let the silence thicken like ice on a windshield. You want someone to feel the weight of their decisions? Take away their audience. Let them shout into the void. Her lawyer, however, was singing like a cold parakeet in a broken cage. I'd never seen a man backpedal so fast while wearing cufflinks. Mr. Callahan, I'm certain there's been a misunderstanding here. Mrs. Callahan's message was not a formal declaration of divorce, nor does she intend to relinquish marital partnership. Oh, now we're partners again? Where was this noble solidarity when she was recording breakup voicemails on her lunch break and probably hooking up with a guy who called himself Trav and wore shoes without socks? I responded with 3 attachments. The revised trust documents. A copy of the bank's disassociation letter. A copy of the prenup with highlighted sections that protected post-marriage contributions, mine. His reply came in under an hour. We'd like to schedule a conversation, ideally before the new year. Of course you would. Because by New Year's, the house payment would come due. And without my name on the loan, without my income on the books, the mortgage company would be breathing down her neck. And me? I'd be renting a loft downtown under a different name with utilities already set up and my new key fob blinking green at the elevator. That Christmas, I made steak for one. Medium rare. Whiskey on the side. And when midnight hit, and the neighbors launched fireworks in the frost-bitten air, I toasted to the silence. To freedom. To the woman who taught me the sharpest lessons come from the softest lies. She texted again at 1:12 a.m. I was emotional. Can we talk? I stared at it for a long while. The gall. The entitlement. She expected me to meet her in the middle of the bridge she'd just set on fire, after sending a lawyer to watch. No reply. Instead, I emailed her lawyer. Please forward any future communications to my legal representation. All personal contact is to cease immediately. Merry Christmas. See, she thought she could weaponize Christmas. That she'd dangle the holiday like mistletoe over my manhood and expect me to crawl back for tradition's sake. But here's what she didn't know. While she was buying matching pajamas for fake Instagram photos, I was reading everything. Case law. Tax codes. Title transfers. Property loopholes. She thought I was just watching TV. I was studying how to leave her legally naked in a house she couldn't afford, a mortgage she couldn't refinance, and a divorce she couldn't win. And I wasn't angry anymore. I was focused. By New Year's Eve, she was circling like a hawk in a hurricane, erratic, clumsy, desperate. Her last voicemail, yes, I still had them saved, every breath, every pause, ended with a whispered, please, can we fix this? Oh, now she wanted, we. Not so long ago, I was just the background noise in her highlight reel. The handyman, the chauffeur, the guy who made the coffee and paid for the floors she walked on while texting Trav, like she was auditioning for betrayal with glitter and filters. Let me tell you something I've learned. When a person shows you who they are via voicemail, divorce threats, or mismatched lingerie they swear they bought, on sale, you believe them. But then you go one better. You make it cost them. I met with my lawyer, Melissa Gage, first business day of January. Sharp woman. Former divorcee herself. The kind of attorney who wears steel in her smile and calls bluff with a manicure still drying. She slid a folder across the table. Everything you gave me checks out. You've documented your financial contributions for the past 6 years, every house upgrade, utility account, even the private school payments. It's meticulous. Thanks, I said. I wasn't trying to hurt her. I just stopped helping. Melissa raised an eyebrow. You may want to trademark that line. I shrugged. She can have the house. I don't want it. Melissa leaned forward. Then what do you want? That was the question, wasn't it? She expected me to fight for custody of material things. The couch. The car. The wedding china neither of us ever used. But those were her trophies. Me? I was after something else. I was going to make sure she learned the one lesson nobody ever had the guts to teach her. Actions have consequences. And silence doesn't mean surrender. It means calculation. The next legal move was elegant. We filed for divorce under irreconcilable differences, citing abandonment of marital reconciliation after documented threats, the voicemail, and failure to sustain good faith partnership. But we didn't ask for assets. We asked for indemnification of debt. Translation? She keeps the house and the full financial responsibility tied to it. See, she thought I'd fight her for it, that I'd beg to keep the walls I built. But the real power move? Letting her keep the palace after you burn the drawbridge and take the blueprints. January 15th. She tried to ambush me at the grocery store. Full makeup. Cropped coat. The regret looked down to a science. Ryan, can we talk? No. Her voice cracked. Just 5 minutes. I gave you 5 years. People were watching. She didn't care. I did. Not for her. For me. She reached for my arm. I stepped back. You don't get to touch what you tried to throw away, I said. Good luck with the house. Then I walked away, left her standing there between the produce aisle and the wine rack. Poetic. She called again later. I let it ring. Watched the name glow on my screen like a dying star. And I thought, you canceled Christmas. So I canceled us. And the difference? Only one of us had the foresight to read the terms and conditions. She tried to play victim. Of course she did. In her response to the divorce filing, she claimed emotional distress. Said I had blindsided her. That I had removed financial support in retaliation, and that I was abandoning my marital obligations without cause. Melissa, my lawyer, nearly spit her coffee when she read it. She voicemailed you a divorce declaration, she said. Deadpan. What's she going to say next? You hacked her heart. I didn't laugh. Not because it wasn't funny, but because I wasn't done yet. See, I'd spent months collecting a dossier that would make a forensic accountant weep with joy. Bank statements showing transfers from our joint account to a Venmo labeled Cocktail Blast Traff. Hotel receipts Bill L. Ed to her corporate card, under CLIN dinners, in the same city he lived. Home security camera clips showing her stumbling in at 2:37 a.m., 3 weekends in a row, while I was away on a work trip she insisted I take. And then there was the calendar sync. She didn't know our Google Calendars still shared a backup. She'd blocked me from viewing hers, but the archive still pulled every business dinner, every late strategy session, every book club that happened in hotel bars. She built her own gallows with timestamps and hashtags. When her lawyer caught wind of the evidence, the tone shifted fast. Gone were the phrases like emotional cruelty. Now it was all amicable resolution and mutual best interests. They wanted to settle. I let them wait. A week. 2. I needed her to feel the same kind of helpless limbo she tried to trap me in with that smug voicemail. And then I responded by not requesting alimony, not demanding liquidation of assets, not even asking for half the furniture. Just this. She keeps the house. She keeps the mortgage. I want nothing that reminds me of who she pretended to be. My lawyer called me that night. You know you could take her for everything, right? I know, I said, but I'm not building my future on ashes. Just making sure she tastes them every time she walks through that door. 3 weeks later, we signed. Quietly. No courtroom. No jury. Just 2 pins, one final echo of a marriage that died before Christmas. As we stood to leave, she looked at me. Really looked. Like maybe she finally saw me as more than the man who fixed sinks and paid bills and made pancakes when she was too hungover from client wine tastings. I didn't mean for it to end like this, she said. I nodded. I know, I said. But you started it like this. And I just finished it better. Funny thing about silence, it teaches you what noise tried to cover. After the ink dried, after the keys were dropped off in a manila envelope without a note, I moved into a downtown loft. Exposed brick. Floor-to-ceiling windows. No memories. Just the quiet. No more half-fake phone calls with muted laughter in the other room. No more clinking wine glasses while I built spreadsheets in the dark. No more tiptoeing around a woman who swore she was just tired, always tired, but somehow had energy for 2 a.m., work events, and a sudden Pilates obsession. Just me. A couch I picked. A mattress without ghosts. And a fridge full of what I wanted to eat. And peace. But not the soft, serene kind you see in therapy ads. No, this was earned peace. The kind that comes after you've walked through fire and didn't bother screaming. She tried one last time. I was coming out of a coffee shop near the courthouse, final documents in hand, notarized and sealed. She pulled up beside me in the car I used to make payments on, rolled down the window, and said, "You really just left?" I turned. "No," I said. "You did. I just made it permanent." She stared at me, mascara doing a better job hanging on than her composure. "I thought you loved me." "I did," I said, slipping the manila folder under my arm. "But I learned something." "What?" "That love without respect is just slow humiliation." And I walked away. Her world? It didn't crumble right away. That's not how it works. These types? They're too good at appearances. They post photos in the same living room with a new candle and a new glass of wine, pretending the silence is chosen. But I heard from mutuals. The mortgage payments weren't always on time. She listed a side hustle on LinkedIn. Sold the ring online for minimal drama. And Travis? Oh, Travis never moved in. Because she didn't want a partner. She wanted an audience. And when I left the stage, the show tanked. Meanwhile, I rebuilt not just my surroundings, but my spine. Got promoted. Bought a motorcycle. Took a solo trip to Colorado and let mountain air freeze the last of the guilt off my bones. I met people. Real ones. With real eyes. People who didn't talk in Instagram captions. And you know what? I started sleeping again. Not crashing. Not collapsing. Sleeping. The kind where you wake up and remember who you are. I didn't change everything overnight. Hell, at first I didn't change anything at all. I just sat in the loft, ate breakfast on a bar stool with chip paint, wore the same jacket every day, and stared out at the city like I was waiting for it to tell me who the hell I was supposed to be now. But slowly, something shifted. I started hitting the gym again, not for vanity, but for discipline. My body had been neglected just like my instincts. I'd gotten too used to being the background, Mr. Reliable. The steady hand behind her selfies. No, I didn't want to be her anything. I wanted to be my own man again. I dusted off the dream I shelved years ago, the side project she used to mock. "You're really gonna waste another weekend coding in your hoodie like a teenager?" She'd laugh, sip her overpriced wine, and scroll through photos she wouldn't let me see. But the thing is, that hoodie, that late-night coding, turned into an app. The app turned into a pitch deck. The pitch deck turned into a meeting with the same firm her beloved Trav got rejected by last spring. And they said yes. The look on the investor's face when I laid out my numbers? Like someone watching a magician pull a rabbit out of a tax return. "You did this alone?" "No," I said. "I did it because I was alone." The app launched 2 months later. Made top charts in less than 3 weeks. She noticed. Of course she did. People from her world started name-dropping me at events. A feature in Forbes tech section? That was the nail. I knew she saw it when I got a DM from one of her old bridesmaids. "Damn, Ryan, we didn't know you had that in you." "Oh, sweetheart. None of you did. Because I wasn't built for show. I was built for survival." And then came the event. The full circle moment. A gala for local entrepreneurs, hosted in that same glassy venue where she once dragged me in a second-hand suit and rolled her eyes every time I talked about potential. I walked in with my collar open and confidence zipped into my spine. And there she was. Hair curled, fake smile fixed, clutching someone else's arm like it came with the lease. Our eyes met. Her lips parted, like she wanted to say something. I just nodded once. Cool. Controlled. And turned back to the woman beside me. No introductions. No second chances. Just distance. Deliberate. Later that night, she messaged me again. "I'm happy for you. Truly." I didn't reply. Because I wasn't building this life for her to watch. I was building it to outgrow the audience. About 3 months after the gala, she started rewriting. I don't mean just in messages. I mean in real life. Mutual friends? Suddenly hearing different versions. We just drifted apart. It wasn't about infidelity, it was more emotional. We were both unhappy. He checked out first. Oh, I see. Now it's a tragedy with 2 authors. Now the woman who left a voicemail breaking up a marriage like it was a dentist appointment wants to spin a tale of shared sadness. Too bad the receipts I kept were timestamped and brutal. Too bad she doesn't get to dictate the ending anymore. One of her friends, who I always liked more than I should have, gave me the rundown over coffee one afternoon. "She's telling people you were cold," she said, eyebrow raised. "Said you were never emotionally available." I just smiled. I said. She just never liked what I had to say. It's a common trick, you know. They light the match, burn the bridge, then smear ash on their face and say, "See what he did to me." But the difference between a real victim and a reinvented one? Evidence. Let me tell you what she didn't know I documented. The text she sent to Trav while I was in the ER with my father. The $900 withdrawal from our emergency fund to pay for a wellness retreat that took place in a Hilton suite downtown. The private investigator photos I never needed to use in court because I didn't want revenge. I wanted distance. But when she started trying to rewrite the script, I leaked the receipts. Not to the public, not on social media, to her circle, quietly, efficiently, with dignity and proof. You want to gaslight my absence into your alibi? Fine. But I'll burn the script in front of your front row friends and let them watch you stutter through the ashes. By spring, the calls stopped. The messages dried up. And for the first time since she pulled the pin on our life together, she did what she should have done months ago. She disappeared. No explanations. No more, let's just talk. She finally realized. You don't get to come back to a man you buried alive, knock on his headstone, and ask if he still wants to do brunch. It's strange. The first morning you wake up and realize you're no longer healing. You're building. No more replaying old fights in the shower. No more crafting clever responses you'll never send. No more scrolling through old photos like you're auditing a failed business deal. Just breath. Clean and full. And ambition. The app? It blew up. I brought on a small team. Guys like me. Overlooked. Underestimated. Men who were told, just be grateful, when their wives came home smelling like secrets. We built something that worked because it was built on truth. And truth? That scales like fire. Investors didn't just come calling, they started chasing. A mid-tier firm offered a buyout. I turned it down. Not out of pride. Out of vision. See, when you've survived being slowly erased by someone who once called you their world, you don't sell short. Not anymore. I launched a second product. Got picked up by an education platform. And one Monday morning, I signed a licensing deal worth more than the value of that house she tried to trap me in. The same house I left without saying goodbye. And that was when it really clicked. She didn't break me. She revealed me. She unwrapped the final version. The man who stopped compromising his gut for the comfort of someone else's smile. I started giving talks. Not TED Talks. Not motivational therapy garbage. Just real talks. About rebuilding from betrayal. About how silence isn't weakness, it's preparation. About how some of us don't fight back with fists. We fight back by living so far beyond what they imagined for us that their betrayal becomes the footnote, not the headline. And then came the letter. Not a message, not a voicemail, a handwritten letter, postmarked, sealed, like it was 1952 and she was auditioning for Dignity. It was short. I see now what I threw away. You deserved more than I knew how to give. I hope you're happy. I'm sorry. I didn't respond. She wanted forgiveness. I gave her indifference. Because closure doesn't come from apologies. It comes from never needing them in the first place. You'd think I'd celebrate more. Pop champagne. Throw a party. Flash the wins. But when you've crawled out of a ditch dug by someone you trusted, victories hit different. They're not loud. They're not flashy. They're quiet, solid, earned. And they don't taste like revenge. They taste like peace. I bought a house. Not to prove anything. Not to match square footage. But because it was mine. Every tile, every light switch, every beam. No ghost in the hallway. No perfume on someone else's pillow. No need to wonder if the smile across the kitchen table was fake. The view? Mountains in the distance. Not people. Just space. Breathable, honest space. My lawyer, Melissa, sent me a bottle of scotch and a one-line card. Next time, don't marry a woman who thinks a prenup is romantic foreplay. She was right. Because this time around, I wasn't looking for someone to fill a void. I was protecting the castle I rebuilt from ash and documentation. I dated, sure, but slowly, on my terms. Not to heal, not to forget, just to live. Because if you ever want to know what healing really looks like, it's not finding someone new. It's walking past someone who tried to destroy you and not feeling a damn thing. She tried again. Of course she did. A mutual ran into her at some boutique pet store she used to mock when I liked the brand. Said she looked tired. Different. She asked about me. Is he seeing anyone? My friend smiled. He's seeing everything more clearly than ever. I laughed when I heard that. Not because it was cruel. Because it was true. I wasn't chasing closure. I wasn't chasing proof. I was chasing myself. And I finally caught up. No baggage. No shadow. Just a man. Whole. Standing. With scars, Yes, but with vision. And if she ever tells the story, let her. But make no mistake. This chapter, this life, it has my name on it, not hers. There's a strange kind of quiet that follows survival. Not the silence of emptiness, but the kind where you realize there's nothing left to brace for. No shoes dropping. No cold texts. No subtle glances that say, I'm not here anymore. Just stillness. And maybe a little bit of grace. The app kept climbing. I hired more staff. Young minds. Hungry. Honest. I gave a few single dads jobs they'd been passed over for elsewhere, guys with resumes stained by family leave and inconsistent hours because they'd actually tried to be present fathers. The irony? I found more loyalty in those men than I ever saw in the woman who used to say, I love how much you care. Right before she stopped, one of the last strings left to cut was the storage unit. Old boxes, wedding albums, receipts, birthday cards from a woman who used to sign her name with hearts before she turned it into a legal weapon. I opened one crate labeled home stuff. Inside, a pillow with both our initials embroidered on it. I smiled. Then I set it in the donation pile. Gently, because I didn't hate her anymore. Hating her would mean I was still burning energy for someone who burned me out. But I hadn't forgotten. And that's the difference. Forgiveness is optional, but awareness is mandatory. I met someone. No, this isn't a fairy tale ending. No ring. No promises. Not yet. Just laughter over coffee. Honest conversations that don't feel like job interviews. She doesn't ask what I do. She asks what I love. She doesn't flinch when I talk about my past. She listens. Without pity. Without comparison. She knows I'm not here to impress. I'm here to connect on solid ground this time. And that's more sacred than any paper vow. So here I am. Not a husband anymore. Not the guy paying off a house that turned into a mausoleum of broken expectations. Just a man, with his name on his own lease, his spine intact, and his story finally, fully, his. Let's be honest, she didn't think I'd ever leave. She thought I'd simmer, stew, swallow it like every other red flag she painted white and called growth. She thought she could cancel Christmas, threaten lawyers, and I'd sit by the window waiting for her to feel sorry. She thought love made me soft. It didn't. It made me dangerous because I learned how deep I could go, how much I could give, how long I could hold out for someone who already checked out. So when I left, I didn't slam the door. I removed the hinges. Here's what she lost. A man who showed up. A man who remembered the little things, like how she hated cold sheets, so he warmed her side of the bed. A man who paid bills she pretended didn't exist while she curated outfits for strangers on social media. A man who fixed what broke, even when she was the one breaking it. She lost the only person in her life who knew the ugly and didn't flinch. And for what? A half-baked affair with a charisma-deprived man-child named Travis, who wore loafers with no socks and posted motivational quotes like, hustle until you're humble. You want to know how it ended between them? He ghosted her 3 months after the divorce was finalized. She found out he was reconnecting with his ex. Oof. I didn't celebrate. That would have made me petty. But I won't lie, I smiled. Not because she hurt, but because I didn't. Because I wasn't there to clean it up. Wasn't there to hold her hand while she cried over a mess she made with the same hands that used to pull away from mine. They say you don't know what you've got until it's gone. She knew. She just didn't think I'd ever enforce it. She tried again to reach out. A postcard. Who even sends postcards? On the front? A mountain sunset. On the back? This made me think of you. Hope you're happy. I didn't respond. I threw it out. Because I've been that mountain. She just didn't bother climbing. There's a moment, quiet, unremarkable, when you realize. It's over. Not just legally. Not just logistically. But spiritually. The tether's gone. The echo stops bouncing. Her name doesn't even sting in the back of your throat anymore. I hit that moment on a Tuesday. Doing dishes. No cinematic thunderclap. No dramatic email. Just a coffee mug, warm water, and this calm that slid into my bones and said, she's not in here anymore. I hadn't looked at our old wedding album in over a year. But I did, once. Not out of longing. Out of curiosity. Like revisiting a museum of someone else's life. I flipped through the pages slowly. There she was. Smiling like she hadn't already started letting go. There I was. Smiling like I didn't already feel the quiet tug of something slipping. I closed it. Didn't cry. Didn't rage. Just walked outside and tossed it into the burn barrel behind the cabin I'd been renovating on weekends. Watched the edges curl, blacken, then float away like ash that never belonged. Closure doesn't come with fire. It comes with disinterest. And now? She's just a story I don't bother telling unless someone really asks. And even then, I don't talk about the betrayal. I talk about the rebuild. Funny thing is, some of her friends follow me now. Not out of loyalty, out of fascination. The same man they saw as quiet, simple, just a guy who fixes things. Now sits on panels, has an office with his name on the door, writes articles about leadership, integrity, and the long game of dignity. One of them DM'd me. "You're not the same guy she used to talk about." I replied, "I am. She just never took the time to see him."